Date object JavaScript date object represent a single moment in a time of platform independent format. Date object encapsulate an integral number that represent millisecond since the midnight of the beginning of January 1, 1970. Description: epoch time space and invalid date. The JavaScript date is fundamentally specified as the time of millisecond that has been elapsed in the epoch, which is defined as the midnight of the beginning of January 1, 1970. The time is time zone agnostic and uniquely defined at instant in history. Note: while the time value at the heart of the date of UTC, the basic method to fetch the highest time in component all work in the local host system time zone and option. The maximum time is not represented by the date object is slightly smaller than the maximum safe integer. Maximum safe integer. The maximum time is represented by date object is slightly smaller. The maximum time is time represented by a date object is slightly smaller than the maximum safe integer, which is, and date object can represent maximum millisecond or million days relative to the epoch. This range is 20 from January April 20. Any attempt to represent time outside this range result in the date of holding a time value which is invalid date. Invalid. There are various methods that allow you to interact with the time step stored in the date. You can interact with the time step directly using a game time set time method, the value of the primitive, the past number method, which are automatically called the number correlation. Return the system causing data system behave like a time. All stating method date dot now date dot past date dot UTC return a timestamp instead of object. The date constructor can be called with a timestamp as an only argument. Date component and time zone. The date represent internally as a single number and timestamp. With interacting with the timestamp need to be interpreted as a structured date and on the time. There are always have two type of interpreter at the timestamp: local time and a coordinated universal time. Global standard time defined time standard. The local time one of the not stored in the data object but determined by the host environment use device. For example, the time stamp 0% a unique instant in the history, but it can interpret in two ways. As a UTC time, it is midnight at the beginning of the January 1, 1970 UTC. With the local time in New York, UTC is in December 31, 1969. That get time zone of the set. And the difference between UTC and local time in another time zone of set does not only depend on the current time zone but also in the time represented by the date object. Because of daylight saving timing and historical changes in Asia, the time zone effect is the offset for the UTC time at the time of the represented by the date object and the location of the host environment. These are two groups of date methods. One group gets and set the value various date to component interpreting the time stamp at a local time, while the other uses UTC year month get full year set full year get UTC full year set full UTC year month date of month hours minute second millisecond date of a week. The date constructor can be called only two of the more argument in which they are interpreted as a year month or hour second millisecond representing in local time. Work similarly but interpret the component at UTC time and also accept argument representing the year. Some method including the date constructor date.utc and depreciated get year by set year method interpret a two-digit year, and for example a new date is interpreted June 24 99 not June 1999. See interpret a two-digit year for more information. When a segment overflow or underflow is expected rate, it usually carries over to or borrow from higher segment. For example, if a month is set to be 12 month or R0, so the December is 11 because we come the January of next year. If the day of the month is set to 0, it become last day of the previous month. This also applies to a date specified with the date time string format. Date time string format. There is many ways to format a date as a string. The JavaScript specification only specifies the one format to universally supported. The daytime string format is specific to the ISO 8601 calendar. Date extended format. The format is as follows: years is dot dot y is year 4 digit is expanded year plus followed by 6 digit. The sign is required to expanded year. Is explicitly disallowed is a valid year. Dot month is a month with 2 digit 01 to 12. Default is 01. Date is the day of the month with 2 digit 01 to 31. Default is 01. T is a literal character which indicate the beginning of the time part of the string. The T is required when specifying the time part. HH is R which 2 digit 0 to 23. As a special case, 24 is allowed and interpreted as a midnight in the beginning of the next day. Default is 00. Is a minute with 2 digit 00 to 59. Default is to 0. As a 60 second with 2 digit 00 to 69. Default at 0. As a triple S is a millisecond with 3 digit 0. Default is 0. Z is time zone if offset which can either be literal character Z indicating UTC or plus or minus followed by HH the offset in our environment from UTC. Various components can be omitted so following date only form y date for time from one of the out date on followed by T followed by H. Combination can be for time zone. For example, date only zone, daytime form, datetime millisecond with time zone is valid all string. With the time zone offset is absent, date only forms as interpret UTC time and date time form are interpreted as a local time. This is due to the historical specifier that was not consistent with ISO 8601 but could not be changed due to the web compatibility. Date.parse and date constructor both accepted string and date time string format as an input. Furthermore, implementation are allowed to support other date format when the input failed to match the format. The ISO string method return a string representation of date in the string format with the time zone always offset always set to Z UTC. You can encourage to make sure that input conform the datetime string format above the maximum compatibility. Note a standard string can be passed in any way as desired to implementation, including the time zone. Most implementation use the local time zone by default. Implementation are not required to return invalid date out of one date component, although usually do. A string may have inbound component with the bound defined, but does not represent a date reality. For example, February 30 implementation behave inconsistently in this case. Date.parse page offer more example about these known other ways to format a day. To ISO string return a string in the date time zone format introduced above which is specified called to string return the result. To string result return a string in a format of coordinated universal time. Why to return string and to time string return the date and time the string respectively. When pass a string or a default call to string and result the string. To UTC string return a string in the format Thursday. To local date string, to local time string or to local string use localized specific date and time format usually provided by the initial API. See the format of the to string method store value. For example, constructor when called a constructor return a new data object. When called a function return a string representation of name. Static method return the numeric value corresponding to the number of millisecond elapsed into verification or passing a string representation of date and return the number of milliseconds since 1 January 1970 date UTC. All we can say that's already been read by us. Move down forward. Example several ways to create a date object. Today date what day new dot what date to new constant word date 3 new dot a here we can be passing out the system format to string method return value. new dot date to string. How many it has been completed in this video? Around 10 minutes has been passed. To ISO string, to true JSON, to UTC, to local string, to local date string, to local time string, to get data, to get date, month and year time, to date equal to constant month, date, year, to interpretation of 2-digit year, new dot date, exhibit legacy, undesirable and consistent behavior 2-digit year value, especially when new date calls are given a 2-digit year value. This year give value does not treated as a literal year or used to be instead get interpreted as a relative offset in some cases of an offset from a year 1900, but in other cases as offset of the line. Let date new dot date date new 2020 not 1 date new dot 2 1 2022 date set year 1990 date 2 string date 2 set year date 2 string. So it to create and get between the year 0 to and 99 instead of use preferred set full year and get full year method calculating elapsed time. The following example show the how to determine the elapsed time between two JavaScript dates in millisecond due to the different only days due to the daylight saving change over month and year. Expressing elapsed time in unit greater than or minute and second required addressing a number of issues should be thoroughly researched before being attempted. You get it what it want to say. Get the number of seconds since is command approach in case of it's important only integer, so single division won't do. It's also important to only return actually if section. That's why code method floor at dot specification browser capability. Not all browsers support the date every function or method of the date class. Do you get it? Yeah. Constructor, we can use constructor for that. Around 12 minutes has been passed in this video, moving with a quite good speed. Let's complete down the 3 minutes more. What else can we read? Date we have read about boolean. Shall read about the boolean. Yeah, let's see what boolean gives us about. Do not confuse with primitive boolean values true false or with true or false value in a boolean. Any object including boolean object with a value of false will be true when passed in a condition format, for example a condition if a statement. This code is executed. Any object including a boolean object with a value of false will to be true when passed to a condition, for example if the condition if the behavior does not apply to boolean private, for example the condition is the following: if statement evaluate to false, do not use boolean constructor for new to convert a non-boolean value to boolean value. Use boolean as a function of double notch. If you specify any object including a boolean object with value is false and initial value of boolean object and new boolean object is true, boolean many values operating that accept boolean first that argument into value. Operation can be summarized as follows: boolean are returned as is, undefined turn into false, null turn into false, 009 false, other number into true, false we can turn into true, the empty string turn false, other string turn into true, symbols turn into true, all other objects turn into true. In other words, there are only handful of values that can coerce to false or called false values. All other values are called truth value. Value truth is important when used to logical operator, condition statement or boolean context. There are two ways to achieve same thing in the JavaScript: double not negate or twice convert a boolean using the same algorithm is above. The boolean function boolean x uses the same algorithm to above the point. Note that the truthness is not the same thing as a lose equal to the true value. Truth, but it's not lose equal to false. It's truly because all the objects are truth. However, when comparing with the false, which is primitive, is also convert the primitive, which is a array. Comparing a string and a boolean result to the both being a converted number also being its general falseness and false differ in the following case. In an undefined null are false if it not lose equal to the false, loosely equal to false. Other string literal are not what Geno code is truly. Construct create a new boolean object instance of properties instant method. Example, we can specifications to get it. What was this content? All its has been passed. We'll see you next time.